This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Things up here, so I can go through stuff. But we do have two new faces here today, so welcome. And I figured we would do propers, pros, and preferred names. So I'll try to start. I'm Sean Abbott. I'm the chair, and basically got into sustainability stuff, in particular in native plants, through my mother, who is a master gardener in like 3 or 4 states now, something like that.
Wow.
So. And yeah, just been trying to figure out what we can do to do things well here. That's me. Oh, and Sean, you just call me Sean.
Okay. I'm Renee Hill. She, her pronouns. I am, my quick synopsis is I started out a few years ago as a macro photographer specializing in insects. I have a particular love for pollinators. And learning about insects brought me to starting school as a natural resources conservation major. It's my 2nd year doing that with the intent to transfer for my bachelor's and hopefully beyond. And I would love to be working somewhere in the entomology, pollinator specific. I'm really interested in pollinators and protecting biodiversity in urban environments. So that's where I would like to continue. We shall see. Yeah. And I live in Easthampton and heard about this and was like, oh, I want it. I want it.
I'm Sophie. I'm the sustainability coordinator for the city of Easthampton. My background is in sort of like environmental studies more broadly, but more specifically sort of like the social justice, environmental justice side of that was what my education was mainly focused on. And I am, oh, did I say you, she, her pronouns? I forget if I mentioned that. And I'm excited to sort of, serve as a conduit between the committee and the city to be able to sort of implement some of the wonderful ideas and everything that you guys are cooking up in here. So.
Connie Dunn, I go by Connie. She, her pronouns. I also sit on city council, so here to support you all in whatever way place that I can. I work at UMass also, but just a lot of stuff with students around environmental justice, supporting their efforts and things like that. So this is a nice transition to be able to support within the city. So yeah, just really looking to be able to kind of support the things that you got going on.
I'm Jenny Goldleaf, she, her pronouns. I'm a landscape designer living in Easthampton, and I focus mainly on ecological restoration and native plant pollinator community interactions, that kind of thing. So this was, I was really excited to learn about this. And I guess for the last meeting of this meeting, I've been acting secretary, but we've been sort of rotating it. So not necessarily a firm commitment.
We did that because nobody wants to be the secretary.
Works.
All right. I'm Jamie Paquette, he, him, and I am here as representative from the Energy Advisory Committee, one of the constituting bodies that make up this group. So let's see, I'm the chair of that committee and been active in that for 4+ years. I work in energy, renewable energy, for a number of years in different capacities with nonprofit and for-profit entities. So I don't have as much of a background in a lot of the ecological and like landscape and plant and tree things as everybody else, but I do have an abiding interest in all things sustainability. And so happy to be part of this, happy to help coordinate things between the 2 committees and contribute here where I can.
Yeah, and Weeks, he, him, it, he's stupid. Well, I'll respond to just about anything. I'm here, well, there's a mandatory representative from the Conservation Commission on this committee that that's me. And I said I would do it. My background is, I have a lot of background in conservation, but a lot of that is in fish and marine ecology, which doesn't have much applicability to us, but there's enough transference there that, I'm comfortable spreading myself thin. And the only other thing worthwhile that I can claim is one of the first things I did when I moved to town 7 years ago is I ripped out my front lawn and put in a pollinator garden. So, and now I am trimming undisciplined roses. They put.
Great. Great. All right. Oh, you know what? I think I forgot to log into this and see if anybody, is there anybody?
No, they'd be there.
Yeah.
Because it's recording.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little,
It's the
one next to
Yeah,
the
so
figures.
that just means, no, that just means that's the one.
Oh,
The
okay,
meeting itself is the one.
got it. Okay, thank you.
I think we're good. Although I might just open that up on my Gmail so that I can make sure that if anybody pops on. Anyway, so I'm going to take that to mean that we're not going to have public speak this evening. And so that
Our nuisance bees to,
did you folks hear about this? The last week, and I actually need to ask the IT department to update like what it shows up on the committee as, but like folks just saw bees as like a whole committee, and were having a problem with like honeybee swarms from like a neighbor's like hives like hitting their houses, so they came by to see if we could help them. We at least got them pointed a little bit more in the right direction, so we're completely useless. But,
yeah, they were well coordinated, people in person and online.
yeah.
I got asked about that last night. Still going.
I'm surprised they didn't come in DPW, because usually people came in DPW to complain about anything and everything. So,
Really?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You've learned that much
Yeah,
already
very
in 3 weeks.
Very quickly, yeah.
Like the Homer Simpson is back.
A little bit. I sit behind this like partition.
All right.
And opening.
It'll be fine. All right, and approval of minutes. We can just see the minutes. We have any thoughts or questions?
I moved that we approve.
Seconds.
Moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from last time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I had,
Can I ask a question? So Renee had one small adjustment from the notes that I made in that same document. Is that the protocol here?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for submitting them,
you can either send them to me or you can send them directly to the city clerk.
Yeah, there's an email that they use specifically for
Yeah.
that, and I can, if you'd like, I'll send that to you.
that would be great.
And they're very happy to get those.
Okay, I had a note here for the Pascomic Trust Invasive Removal Program and Native Plantings. How were you the one that brought that up, or?
Yeah, I
is that
did.
him from the-
I've been a member of PCT for a bit. I went to their annual meeting earlier this month. And I had a chit chat with the president during the intermission, and they'd be quite happy to coordinate with us, both in terms of, accessing our growing volunteer group for some of their plantings or for removing invasives. I mean, it's part and parcel of what we have initiated along the Manhattan.
Yep.
And it just gives us another avenue with more support to do that.
Yeah, and actually, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I cannot remember the name of the president right offhand. It's the sort of thing I should have written down, which I did. But, we can readily get in touch with them and they would be very pleased to work with us.
Great. Yeah. I think we should absolutely do that. Similar note, I was talking with Councillor Jadzik. That's all right.
Jadzik.
And
Kept doing that to me too. Just like,
the only one there. And she has some spots in her neighborhood which are either public property or shared land, which are currently infested with black swallowwort. And since stuff along the Manhan, especially this spring, is going to be fraught or counterproductive because they're going to be doing a lot of work along the Manhan, and we have traditionally not been able to get them to tell us when and where those things happen. I think trying to do things with these other groups would be really good. So I'm hoping I can work with Councillor Jadzik to also sort of organize a party to go after the black swallowwort in their area. We can work with the Piscomic Trust to try and go after the black swallowwort there. You know, in line with the idea that we've had to try and do pay it forward events of various varieties. Like this would be like, I figured the one with Councillor Jadzik would be like really awesome to do, like we'll go there and then we'll try and recruit people and see if anybody else has any ideas for other places to go, and we can kind of get that sort of thing going forward. So, so how we can try and get the president's name and get him in contact with us, and we'll just.
Yeah, and I apologize. I just,
Diane McLean, I just pulled up their website.
boom. Yep, absolutely correct.
Great. So we'll reach out to them and volunteer to see if our volunteers want to help out. And
Yeah.
Find out when and where and go from there.
Yeah, I wonder which spaces they prioritize. They have a lot of good,
Well,
a lot of good locations.
they have several locations. I think Diane had one in mind in particular.
Right. Well, there was that one that like, I think they have one that was like, that was one that I had mentioned that, they already had a volunteer that was doing some invasive cleanup. It's over by White Brook, or what used to be White Brook Middle School, and like that whole area. But I don't know what other priorities they may have identified.
And just the part of our conversation is coming back to me. They have a property, I think they call it Old Piscomic. It's off of East Street, just up from the Old Piscomic School. And I think that was an area that they were particularly interested in working in. And one opportunity that she pointed out, apparently there are a couple of large stone or maybe cast concrete planters there.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be an opportunity to, if we can, raise monies, plant some native species there. And again, we would want to do that, sort of in partnership with them.
Great.
Okay. Anything else on that topic? Earth Day Climate Action Plan series of events, which is here to be named probably on Monday. So Hal and I attended sort of a cross-committee climate action plan working group a couple of weeks ago. And I'm also meeting with John Pepe tomorrow just to like kind of do a meet and greet before Monday's meeting. So the plan is to do kind of in conjunction with some of the other committees and groups around, is to do a like series of events to get people to know more out. Actually, why am I talking about this? Why don't you say that?
This is what's involved. It's honestly, it started out, and I came into it kind of somewhat in the middle of it, but it started out as like an Earth Day event, like a single event that would be promoting the climate action plan. And has since sort of morphed into more of a series of events over the next 6 or so months to try and draw attention to it, make the public aware. And we've been bringing in sort of connections to other plans as well. And I think at the moment we have 3 confirmed events that we're going to be having some sort of involvement with, whether that's tabling or going to be running the event or volunteering. We have a rain barrel pickup that's happening in May. I should have my computer out so I can get the exact date. May 22nd from 3:30 to 5:30. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I have my notes.
Oh, amazing. Jamie's getting here the same thing that I said earlier today. So the rain barrel pickup event is happening. People basically order in advance. There's like a 6-week period where we advertise it and everything, and then they come and pick up the rain barrels. We will likely have some sort of tabling or poster board there, or just a table for people to get information, and at least my goal with it is to try and find like very specific connections to the plans for these events. So it's not just broadly, here's what the plan is. It's here's an action item in the plan that this event either helps to accomplish or relates to in some way. And a couple of updates that are more specifically related to the Bees Committee and their potential involvement. I repledged for the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. I don't know if you, a couple of years ago, she had pledged to complete like these 3 action items that would support specifically monarch conservation in the city. I don't think that she really knew what it would entail, because you're supposed to pledge the 3 things and then at the end of the year give an update that you post online about what has been done, and she did not do that. And also the pledge needs to be reinstated every year, so I brought it to her attention. She was happy to pledge again, and I selected the action items that I felt could fall in line with some of the work that we're doing with the outreach group. And also a local Girl Scout leader reached out to me. Her Girl Scout troop wants to do some kind of service project that involves pollinator gardens. So I was like, I can help you with that. And ultimately we were kind of deciding, does it want to be sort of like a one-off thing, or does it want to be a longer process? And they decided that they wanted to go for the longer process to get their silver award, which is, yeah. So I spoke with DPW today, and they gave me a suggestion as to where we could put a pollinator garden. They had suggested, I need the exact address, over where the mills are. It was kind of quickly brought up. They're like, oh, do it over at the mills.
So we have a pollinator action plan.
Yes, I did read through it. I
Okay,
couldn't remember what sites were specifically
Right, so
mentioned.
if we could get one of those sites, that would actually dovetail really well.
One of those sites is towards the mill pond
Yeah.
off of the
Is it?
rail
Okay.
trail.
Yeah, so that might have been where.
And it would
I
have
can-
a reasonable amount of public traffic.
I'm
Okay,
able to pull this up really quick.
I can bring them a specific recommendation and just get it
Yeah.
approved. I today in the DPW meeting was
Yeah,
just like, does
so
anyone
that
have
would be
any
great.
offhand
So,
suggestions?
so I guess the first question that comes up with me with something like this is, what kind of support, and I'm thinking dollars, do they need in order to, buy plants?
Right.
Well, and I guess the other part of the question is, do we need permission to kind of rototill a 10 by 20 plot of ground as a place to put the plants?
Mhm. Yeah,
And
so,
in which case, do we need the money to go buy or rent a rototiller?
right. Yeah,
But those sorts of questions. seem-
totally, yes, need to work them out a little bit. My understanding from the woman, her name is Angela, they have some funds that they put aside from their fundraising that she said she would potentially be willing to put towards seeds or buying plants. I
Yeah,
was thinking another opportunity could be hosting some kind of plant drive with the Girl Scouts where we collect, donations for native plants or seeds,
Mhm,
or
yeah.
could potentially make it a volunteer opportunity to physically implement the garden. I would imagine the Girl Scouts would have pretty strong involvement in that and also the upkeep of it.
Yeah.
I was also going to look into grant opportunities for something like this. I know the Pollinator Action Plan kind of outlined some potential funding pathways. So that was going to be my next step. But we were also thinking of doing sort of a promotion of the Girl Scouts plan and initiative at Cultural Chaos.
Yep.
And we really wanted to kind of have an artistic connection to it, given the event. So Angela and I were kind of bouncing ideas off of each other and thought, if the girls created like little posters or signs that we could put in the pollinator gardens that is their artwork, or potentially making prints that they could sell or give away at Cultural Chaos, to kind of promote that as well. So Cultural Chaos is turning into a pollinator themed event. That's just kind of how it's shaking out so far. So, yeah, I think that that's all we have confirmed for now, but I'm meeting with Angela again next week, and so we'll go over some things.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice, that's great.
So a few questions. Do we know, so if we're able to pick that spot, or pick a spot or whatever, one of the questions I have is like, how are we going to like delineate that this is like a public garden? Like, are we gonna, like, both how do we do that sort of officially? Is there any GIS needs or anything silly like that? Do we put like a little wall around it? Like, how do we show that this is explicitly a native plant garden, a pollinator garden.
Yeah.
Which segue or side note is, I think personally, I'd like to at least try and adjust the language that we use regularly to native plants versus pollinators, because to me, the native part is the more important, is really the more important part, because it's not just the pollinators are trying to support insect life in general. It's the foundational thing. So just, you know, I would kind of like to start getting everybody we can to sort of use that language whenever we can. And this is, do we think, or do we know whether there would be any sort of available support from DPW in terms of like equipment or building a fence if we need a little, not like a fence, but like, you know, a little delineating line or any sort of, I don't actually think we probably want a grow till at the most. So we probably want like a, what do you think, like a turf cutter?
Depending on
what we're starting with.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
And depending on the timeline, like if we
Yeah.
could do.
and that's not a big thing, but certainly delineating it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could do a lot with just getting, you know, some pavers from Lowe's and, you know, outlining the area that would do an awful lot.
yeah, or teach people to build wattle fences, because those are actually really good, and they give you dead right, which is also really good for insects.
Sounds like a design question. I was like, oh, yeah. Right, like if we could just use,
I mean, and that might be worthwhile. Anyway, so
Maybe that DPU has materials as well that could be used
Right.
or something like that.
well, and if we decide to do wattle fencing, maybe they can help just bring us a bunch of sticks that they otherwise would have just destroyed.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Especially if there's cleanup somewhere and there's just like, you know,
Yeah.
trimming of trees or
Yeah.
whatever, then.
so yeah, I mean, I would love to do this. I think we should probably kind of figure out some of these things,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
process wise
Yeah,
offline. So
Right.
we'll just keep email with that.
For sure. Yeah.
Great. And then one other, along the same lines as that, one other thing is I did write an email to Tanner, because we heard recently that there's a couple of gardens going into New City that that we didn't know about, that we would have liked to at least be able to sort of be like, give ideas or suggestions for you know, plant lists and stuff. So I might be able to have a quick meeting with Tanner about that. I'm blanking on her name.
Allison.
Allison, thank you. And then, yeah, so, I mean, we would like to try and establish as not a blocker or anything, but certainly not, I mean, like when eventually we are working on an ordinance to try and like suggest or mandate when the city does things like this, that they, you know, have so many native plants and here's the plant list and things like that. But even in the interim, just as much as possible, if there's any way that we could like have folks reach out to us before these and be like, we would like, you know, these are still the plants we'd be interested in. These are the sorts of things that are important, just because, you know, we're at like 75% design stage on those gardens. So, or on those parks. So, you know, at that point we can kind of look at them and be like, well, we might have done things differently or not.
Or some suggestions.
Yeah.
Some ways that we could have supported you.
Right. So,
Are those community gardens, the new city gardens?
sorry, I believe they're just parks.
Okay.
I mean, just parks.
Okay.
They're going to be parks. One of them is a redo and one of them is a new park.
Okay.
And, you know, hopefully we get to go look at those, and then maybe provide some like ex post, maybe next time thinks about us. But I do hope that we can get people to at least like run some things by us or invite us to, you know, design meetings or RFPs or whatever ahead of time, in the future.
Did they have like a landscape designer they were working with on
I
those?
believe so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to get a meeting with Allison and then kind of find out. Back to, anyway, so we're going to continue to work with Sophie and the Climate Action Plan folks on those events. Also, I mean, just at like the barrel pickup, I think, because that does dovetail really well with like native gardens. So like, we would probably, if we, you know, have a representative there just talking about our stuff in general. And then, is there anything else from the Climate Action Plan series that we want to talk about now, or?
You mentioned the September art thing
Yes.
too, if you want to.
There's a new event, I think it's September 20th from 2 to 4. It's gonna be called Art Floats Easthampton, and it's more of like an artist kind of exhibition. I think local artists are gonna get contracted to make these faux art pieces that are gonna then go in the pond, and they're gonna have some sort of organizations and tables set up, and they offered a table to the climate outreach committee to sort of relay message, provide resources. I don't have a specific action item in mind to connect to that event, but we can start to kind of brainstorm what might make sense. There's also the option to sort of partner with the National Pond to do something, you know, kind of piggyback off of what they might be cabling.
Absolutely.
So
Great. Cool.
So just to be nitpicky, I think you mentioned that there were 3 events. So I've got the rain barrel pickup, the art floats.
Cultural Chaos is confirmed. We have a table.
Okay.
And then, oh, one other thing, this is not confirmed, but we were thinking about the possibility of doing some type of compost event.
Oh,
Just
right.
because we have a rotating fund for compost barrels, so we could do similar to the rain barrel pickup. Residents come and get their compost barrel, and we've been communicating with a representative from Banana Compost.
I think I got, is that the email?
Yeah, John, I don't know if he puts on those email
Yeah.
chains, but everyone that he can. But they offered basically to do a compost demonstration at an event. So we could have a compost specific theme event, which would obviously tie into native plants and everything like that as well if we want.
Absolutely. And I think I did send, should have forwarded that, just forwarded it to everybody, but, the gentleman involved with that was like volunteering to do like teaching type stuff, like give classes or whatever. So I think that might be something that we could dovetail in with something else we do, you know, but actually a thing that would go great with like another winter sewing thing, because it'd be like, you know, here's how you can also use, if you're doing this outside and, you know, use some of your own compost or whatever. Oh, and then, sorry, I'm all over the place. You've seen the because we were talking about like potentially doing sort of like plant share or something with the Girl Scouts, and we just always need to bring up the fact that we're now really worried about jumping worms. So
Yeah,
it's like
that's true.
hard
That's
to,
very true. Yeah.
kind of hard to just have people like me dig plants out of our yards, which is what I was doing until
Give it
like,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
so which gets back to the sewing, and then actually using for the most part using treated or like bagged treated whatever soil, which sucks, but is what it is.
A question for my education. I mean, my understanding is most earthworms around here are non-native anyways. How widespread are the jumping worms, and how much on the margin additional harm are they doing?
I actually just had a map up earlier today that I closed recently because I was looking at this just now, but they've been reported in most counties in New England except for like Essex, Vermont.
Yeah.
So they're relatively widespread and have potential to damage, especially in forested areas. So it's like pretty no bueno. Unfortunately, and I'm happy to share the UMass fact sheet that I was looking at earlier. There is not an effective protocol for once they are in place. So the emphasis is on prevention as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of the important things there is, as Sean mentioned, using pre-bagged or treated compost, because that has to pass very stringent temperature heated protocols. It's like above, I think jumping worms die at 104 degrees for 3 days or something like that. And for sale, compost has to be heated to like 130 for 2 weeks. So that does the trick. I was just learning a lot about this earlier, so I'm full of jumping worm facts right now. Fresh. It's fresh. There are those who think they don't like copper or mustard.
Oh, interesting.
So some people are trying less intense methods using those substances, but as of right now, there isn't really a treatment method.
Do you happen to remember the damage profile off the top of your head? Because my memory is mostly that they like eat up and destroy leaf litter, which then, you know, just crushes habitat for a bunch of other stuff, but that's all I remember.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, they're bigger than earthworms, which are not native, but have been in this ecosystem for like maybe 10,000 years. So we've kind of adjusted a little bit, but they're larger. They eat a lot more material, and they don't have that many predators because they are a new introduction. Interestingly, they may have been introduced with the cherry trees in Washington DC,
Oh,
which is kind of wild. Yeah, they showed up right after that. Yep. So yeah, it's a bigger issue for leaf litter, and that's like such an important environment for.
Yes, I was just thinking that
Take
we
it
don't
away.
wanna, we don't wanna, it's a balance of not wanting to also discourage people from leaving some leaf litter. I feel like if people hear that,
Right.
immediately it'll be like, get rid of the leaf litter, but then it's also on the flip side, like,
Yeah, I feel like the bigger transmission vector is in stuff like nursery
yeah,
material.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which that tends to be
Yeah, 'cause-
a big one for a
Right.
lot of things.
Right.
Yeah, because even if you do like bare root on the plants, their likelihood of being able to see and knock off the jumping worm eggs or whatever they are is basically nil because they're ear microscopic. So
It's really challenging.
yeah, so
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like something that we really need to think about how to message around this, because it's right to your point that like we want to encourage people to be enthusiastically gardening and growing plants
Yeah.
and being responsible stewards of, you know, the passage of material through there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a neighbor who last year she was talking about, they brought some soil in and we realized, oh my God,
Oh, really?
they were in the soil.
Yuck.
I see it even on like the Buy Nothing page. You know, a lot of times when people are digging up plants to kind of separate, you know, being cautious of that when they're passing along plants in town.
Yeah.
May I ask one clarifying question about the mayor's monarch pledge? Is that okay if I ask?
yeah.
Is that something that we would be involved in at all, or is that what is that pledge and what do we need to, what are we doing in East Hampton for that pledge?
I can hear, let me pull up the exact items that I pledged for. I did not pick these items and assume that you guys would take it on. I was happy to, I mean, you can have as much or as little as involvement as you'd like. But I think that most of the items that I chose, we're gonna relate directly to initiatives with the outreach program anyway. So there's very minimal, like additional work outside of what we were already planning on doing. And of course, not my thing is not it. but
Well, what immediately flags me is I feel like a lot of people not familiar with biodiversity and native wild species, they a lot of people need their gateway insect to really get them passionate and excited about maintaining biodiversity and maintaining those native species. And I feel like the monarch is a big one that really gets people in. So when I heard monarch pledge, I was like,
yes, for sure.
Charismatic microphone.
yeah, exactly, exactly. You really need it to really get people excited about what else can I see that can help in my yard. So,
Right, thank you. And I can send you, there's a, East Hampton now has a community profile on the website. So it has just like a little
excellent.
description of the city and what we've been doing, and also the items that we have pledged to carry out, or at least begin to start working on within the next year. And I am happy to be responsible for writing the summaries and updating the website and everything. That's totally fine.
Well, I mean, taking out black swallower is a great monarch helper because black swallower kills monarchs.
And again, that kind of just ties so nicely together where if people understand bringing the monarchs in and then really paying attention to the, those, species that we're trying to get rid of, and just, it's a great segue for a lot of things.
Yeah, this is, the website is just, it's the National Wildlife Federation.
Okay.
I've got Mayor's Monarch Pledge. There should be a page that has the active pledges with the names of the mayors and the initiatives that are perfect. One of the pledges that I had made, and also one that the mayor had made back in 2023 when she first took the pledge, was to implement a pollinator garden. So it's not much more than that I'm doing.
Bags of milkweed seeds.
That's awesome.
Yeah. it's great.
Okay, that's fine. I
It
didn't look
it
it
is
up. Yes,
available.
thank you,
And
thank
if you
you.
want to give me your email, I can email you the
Okay.
talk I have about it
Okay.
too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind sharing that with the group.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Actually, I'll be adding, I'll just send out an email with everybody because I need to update my
Okay.
list
Yeah,
of
no
people.
problem. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, the next two items we're welcoming folks. No. We had Jenny pretty much more or less by herself put together our spring newsletter and sent it out. So thank you very much for that.
And it looks amazing.
Sure, thank you for editing it. We actually took a couple of like very minor follow-up items about like how to format it going forward.
Right.
Which Jamie has been thinking about diligently.
Yeah, so I took it, I was looking to post it on the Facebook page. And so I took the Google Doc that Jenny had created. I added a paragraph at the top that just was sort of like the bees founding, like this is what we're about, so that people would get some of that misconception out of the way for anybody seeing it. And then I downloaded it as a PDF. Only to realize that on Facebook I could not link or upload a PDF. I could only do an image file.
Gotcha.
So I then messaged Jenny and Renee, and then I reached out to the technology department and said, could you post this on our committee page as a PDF file that I could then link to?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So they did that for us. And I posted on the Facebook page yesterday with a link to that, as well as a link to the form for people to sign up directly if they would like to do that. So if we see, I don't know that we'll see a huge influx from that necessarily, but
We got one.
yeah, we got one.
Which is
All right.
huge, actually.
That's great. So, yeah, so we'll probably look to continue doing that there. They're happy to post our former newsletters up there as well on the community page. Right now, they are at the bottom of the page, and I was wondering if maybe we might ask them to boost them up towards the top rather than like have to get through so much text to even find them. But
I mean, we could stand to give. There was another thing Jenny wanted to do in terms of making sure the links actually worked with the page. We could definitely stand to give a little TLC to the city page.
Yep.
Like our committee page, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if the newest one could be at the top
Right.
somehow or something.
Right. Okay. So anyway, and they're happy if we want to take the previous one or two that we've sent out and add those into the mix too, we can just add those in there. It's, basically what it looks like. It's just at the bottom. It just says Bees Committee Newsletter, the link, and it's easy enough to then just post that on Facebook for people to see. Along with a quick synopsis. So.
If at any point anybody wants to help me in maintaining like our own website, I will just buy a domain and put it up. So if anybody like, we don't have to talk about this right now, but like, unfortunately, the city page is limited enough, layout options, all this other stuff that I think it would just be like really useful for us to do our own site.
Right.
I know that pollinator community in Connecticut that I was talking about, they have their own page through the Pollinator Pathway organization, and I didn't know if the pollinator, like to be a bee city, I don't know if anything along those lines, whoever hosts that, like, yeah, I don't know if there's a way to get our own page through something like that as a bee city, kind of like this town or city does in Connecticut through the Pollinator Pathway organization. So that might be something to look into. I can take a look into that. Okay.
Thank you.
And if not, then we can see what other alternatives.
And the last thing on the agenda is Jenny had stuff about a garden co-working event.
So as a little bit of background, the concept here would be like a really low lift, kind of a drop-in space that we're just hosting for folks to come in and plan their spring gardens and chat with other interested people. I think it could be fun to have some like books lying around that are helpful for reference. We could try to get some copies of the pollinator action plan that has some demonstration garden plants in it, that kind of thing. Not doing like active education or outreach, just hosting a space for people to come in and go work. I put out a little interest poll in the newsletter that went out last week and got about 15 responses, which is cool. If people saying that either they're interested or they have books or other reference materials they can bring, or they have seeds that they would bring to swap. So I think there could be some other fun tie-ins. And then as far as scheduling, you know, these are not super conclusive, but like results look like this in terms of timing. Some people are interested in weekdays during the day, weekday evenings. Looks like weekend mornings might be the most popular slot, and then weekend evenings. And a weekend morning is fine with me for sure. So I think that's sort of helpful just in terms of blocking out some loose timing. Don't necessarily have a site in mind. I think the library is one option. Bouquets of the Valley have at various points offered to host additional events for us. Very open to any other suggestions that folks have.
The new library annex would be
Oh, is that
awesome.
open?
I believe it is.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
So the new library has plenty of space. We would probably want to start, like, I don't know if we have like tables or anything.
Okay.
So we might need to try and find like a boarding table or something.
Looks
I
like
think they have one.
I was gonna say, I think I have 3. I have an 8-foot, a 6-foot,
And that
4-foot.
is
So
a block from my house. So that would be super.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think also the old library would also be totally fine.
Yeah.
They've been hosting some garden related events this spring too.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, I mean, do we just want to like pick a date and go with it? I think this can be like pretty straightforward. And like no obligation to attend, but of course it'd be lovely if folks want to make it. I'm pretty available, so like basically what this works can be. So I think we should probably give ourselves a couple of weeks lead up for outreach.
Yeah, just to get people.
Yeah, but still want to do it relatively early when we're still kind of in the planning phase. So sometime in April, maybe. I'm literally just, okay, so probably not the weekend of Easter, which is April 20th. So I was going to say, what about the 19th? But maybe folks are traveling. April 12th, April 26th.
Like I say, like, I think earlier is probably better than later because that way, if folks like enjoy it or if they're like, I wanted to make it, but I couldn't, then we could potentially have a follow up in like early May.
yes, that's a great idea because when it's so early.
Or if folks want to come back and like bring their updated plans or whatever, something like that.
I like that.
We could put, so anyway, it gives us more flexibility if we do it earlier.
The 12th works for me and I would love to be a part of it and help out. And
I don't know the timing, but the 12th is Passover.
That's important.
Okay.
I don't know when it starts, so.
It's like usually a sundown to sundown thing, so I think a morning would be pretty, but that's a good point about Saturday mornings that folks might be in shul or something. Okay.
It does start at sundown on Saturday the 12th. So if we did the morning, that might be okay.
That might be okay. And happy to trial that. And then maybe we could do a follow-up either the 26th or May 3rd.
Great, good. I will plan on helping you.
Yay.
What's the title? Sorry, what's the title?
Garden co-working event. Very snazzy title.
What was that? Sorry.
It's like a garden planning co-working event.
Okay.
Or at least that's what I've been calling it so far. If anyone has a more, something that rolls off the tongue, very open.
Announce it at city council, so I was on sure.
Okay.
What time did we say?
We didn't. 10:30, 11? Just throwing out some times here. 10:30. Shouldn't be like a ton of setup, so I think it'll be more or less a show up kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of bring your own.
Yeah.
Books, laptops.
Yeah, like
paper
maybe we
if you
could have
like
some
it.
like graph paper or something
Yeah,
for people to use.
I can bring a whiteboard.
Nice.
People just want to throw something up, but although I need to get my pens replaced.
Thanks. I don't know about this. I've got lots of colored pencils, like that kind of thing. Okay, so that sounds like a really great plan. Can plan to figure out a space and outreach and all that. The three of us can be in touch about that separately. Wonderful.
And then once we have it, we'll, send it out via the newsletter. We'll get Jamie to put it on Facebook.
Yep. Do all the things. We were very successful with the winter sewing event with those channels and also a few flyers around town. So, but yeah, whatever channels folks have in mind, that'd be great. And I do like the idea of the library annex. It's a little more spacious because we had such a good turnout the first time around that I don't know if 40 people want to show up. I don't want to be turning people away.
Yeah. And that would be so exciting.
Really cool.
Yeah, I think library annex would be the place to go if we can get it.
Okay.
I don't know why we couldn't get it.
We could create, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we could create like a sign up sheet too, to sign up for our, you might have, did you already have that at the winter sewing event? To sign up for our newsletters?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if I got too much use, but
Okay.
I will say I guess this doesn't, right. That's a really good point because I wouldn't necessarily be having people register for this event in the same way. So for that event, I was able to capture their
Yes.
info and
Yes,
report
that's
them
true.
directly in. So that's a really good point. Thank you.
Yep.
You can also just throw up QR code or something someplace.
Oh, that's a great
because
idea.
The sign up is self-service and
Yes.
personally I prefer to reduce our own administrative load. Give
And
people
everybody's
sign up for
using
themselves.
QR codes lately.
Yeah.
That's a great way. Good idea.
At the library, they'd be able to promote it too, probably. And I think they would probably appreciate the traffic in there.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, I'm happy to follow up about that. Very exciting.
Great. All right, that is our agenda. Does anybody have anything else that they want to bring up? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just one thing. One of the things that the ordinance committee has been working on, and I can share with you once we get it back from the city solicitor, but we're working on a shrubbery ordinance, which primarily has to do with corners,
Right.
intersections. So one of them, there's plants that are there on the corners, but then it creates a safety hazard because you can't see around them. And some of them, there's accessibility problems because they overhang over the sidewalks, right? So I just think it's probably important for you all to have some input and some thoughts in regards to that, just because one, there might be some native plants that might be impacted, but also it's like I said, it's a safety concern, and I think people are going to have some thoughts and feelings around that. So I don't want it to be a shock or surprise to you all, but for you, if you want to have input into that, important.
Thank you.
On that note, I had something about the Municipal Reforestation Act that the Massachusetts Pollinator Network has been working on. And I actually don't remember what the specific ask there was, but they were essentially, I think they're at the point of trying to get municipal sign-on for support. Let's see if I can find that real quick. So it was the kind of thing that individuals, they weren't looking for individual sign-on, but they were hoping to encourage folks to pass it along to others. I can try to send this around again and see if there's some other action items that would be relevant for us because I'm not pulling it up right now. Very, very long email from the Pollinator Network people about this. Okay, so I finally found the email that I sent around a couple weeks ago. So yeah, municipal reforestation bill, which I think aligns really nicely with one of our priorities around native trees. The initial sign-on date has passed. It was March 14th, but I think there's probably additional steps to be taken because this is still kind of actively moving through the House and Senate. Yeah, I don't know if that's something that we would have an avenue to move forward to try to see if that's something that City Council would sign off on or what.
Would this be like a resolution of support?
Maybe
Like they just did for the rental,
good
short-term
question.
rentals.
I don't know enough about how things work to say, so I'm happy to share this further.
Yeah, if you want to share that with me, I can take
Sure.
a look at it, but city council could, we just did one for rent stabilization last night.
How quickly these things receive.
Yeah, so it might be something certainly that we could do, and then, if this was also in conjunction with other events coming up, right? We could try to tie all of those things together, particularly around some of these expenses, right? So it could be, okay. We can put a lot of strategic.
Yeah, do we have a tree warden again, or?
I think it's Greg's thing.
So great.
Okay, so is he going to officially stay the tree warden, or are we going to be trying to get a different tree warden? at some
I
point?
actually don't know.
I don't know
Yeah.
if that's been put out. I think it's him for
Yeah.
right now. So.
Okay, cool. Oh, it was kind of funny because former tree warden Sarah Greenleaf. Greenleaf is really easy because Greenleaf. But she's apparently in the same neighborhood with Councillor Danzig, so it might be involved if we go ahead and we get to do the invasive removal over there.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. Anybody else? Anything else at this point?
Do we have future meeting dates settled?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Last round.
On vacation for the opposite weeks again.
These are only on Thursdays.
Recently, they have been.
Yeah, we have so far failed to come up with an actual consistent day and day of week. I would like to try that again at some point, but maybe for that I should send around like an email to see if there's one we can get on the board for the future. But
Yeah, I feel like the past 3 we've done at this time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This year so far.
Okay, so if we wanted to look around a month out, we'd be looking around the 3rd week of April. Let's check the date. Let's see. April 17th is pretty open in terms of conference rooms, which would be again Thursday. There's no conflicting conference room things, so we could do that.
I will likely have a conflict that day myself, but that doesn't mean that we can't have it.
Thursdays are a little for me until UMass. Come on Thursday evenings.
Yeah, I mean. Tuesday?
Tuesday the 20th, it would be.
22nd, you said?
Yeah, but it's just
During school vacation week, it probably doesn't affect.
22nd? I don't know if we have committee rooms open because my internet's not running.
Yeah. You can see that.
At 6 o'clock.
It's like great. It's like one of those, I can't click on that actual date because there's nothing planned or scheduled as of right now. So, oh wait, here we go. Now when I click on the 23rd.
There we go. Now I have nothing.
Yeah, no, there's nothing on the 22nd.
Great, okay. I will send the request. I don't know.
Everyone's like, it's Earth Day, let's not have a meeting that night.
If only we could have a meeting outside.
Yeah.
We'll stream it.
You could sign it from another computer. Like that. Send it outside.
Well, you could sign into Meets here.
Yeah, or it could just be an in-person only and the one-off sort of
We have done that before. We did that,
Yeah.
plant walk.
Yeah, we did it when we visited.
That's right.
So.
It's always a thought. Great.
Cool. I just set the email request in the conference room, so good. Should be GTG. Does anybody want to give us a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Any second?
Any second.
Conflict in the fight for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.